Hello, boys and girls, and welcome to StoryTime. If you remember, we are continuing our journey through Max Lucado's Tell Me the Secrets, Treasures for Eternity. Last time when we gathered, we learned about the secret of victory. Remember, Landon had a problem. Whenever Landon spent time with his cousin, he was always getting into trouble. He felt like he had no power to resist, and that whenever they were together, he did wrong. Well, Landon went to go visit his cousin, and they stayed the night, his whole family, at his cousin's house. And that very first night, Landon's cousin wanted to sneak out and go to a party. Landon had a choice to make. And that is where we picked up the Book of Secrets last week, and we read the story, and we read about how Landon had the Book of Secrets, and he opened it up, and he read about the Song of the King. Do you remember the story? The king had a song that he would play on his flute. The quest was all three of the swiftest, the wisest, the bravest journeyed through Hemlock Forest to win the hand of the princess in marriage. Well, one of the knights chose the sun to be the companion because the sun had the flute as well, and they could sing the song through the valley of hope knots where they would mimic the song, and so they didn't know where to go and what was the true song and what was the fake song. And as they journeyed through the forest, Landon learned the importance of staying close to Jesus, to the Son, to the Prince, that if he stayed close to him and learned of him, that he would make it safely to the castle. So Landon had the courage, and he chose not to go to the party. And we learned the verse of James 4:7, "Submit yourselves therefore to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you." Landon had learned to submit to God, to resist the temptation of going to the party and lying. And then what happened? The enemy fled, and he didn't give in to temptation. That's what we learned last time. This week we have a new story we get to learn, the secret of growth. Let's begin with the secret of growth. I wonder what character we get to learn about this week. We've learned about Jessica, Landon, Eric. Let's see. The secret of growth. But God knows the way I take, and when he tested me, I will come forth as gold. Job 23:10. Eric looked up at Landon and Shannon as they entered the restaurant. "Do you know what this is all about?" he asked. "Not a clue," responded Landon as he sat down. "There was a strange message from Josh on our answering machine last night telling us he would meet us here at 9 a.m. So here we are." "Maybe he just wants to buy us breakfast," Shannon volunteered, eyeing the selections behind the counter. "Don't think so. He told me to be ready to get dirty," Eric said. Landon produced a pair of work gloves. "Josh told me to bring these." "This is weird," observed Shannon. "A Saturday morning meeting with no reason?" "Sure, there's a reason." The voice was Josh's. They hadn't seen him come in. He pulled out a chair and sat down, placing a burlap bag on the table. "What's the big mystery, Josh?" Eric asked. "Yeah," Landon continued. "Why did you want to see us, and why did you want us in work clothes?" "Well, I have several reasons," Josh began. "The first one is Amanda. The second is the pirates. And the third is the school play." Wonder what this is all about. All three kids looked at Josh, partly surprised and partly embarrassed. The first to speak was Landon. "Who told you about Amanda?" "Your dad." "What did he say?" "He said she dumped you for the basketball player." Landon looked down at the table. Raw deal. The guy is a jerk. Well, Josh comforted, you're not the only guy who got that shaft this week. And he looked straight at Eric. The Pirates game, Eric asked. Didn't your big brother ask you to go? Yeah, but then he changed his mind. Said he'd rather take a date. Probably taking Amanda, Shannon chuckled. Josh spoke quickly before either of the boys could respond. Your week hasn't been that great either, has it, Shannon? Melva told you? Yep. I didn't get the lead in the play, Josh. I practiced for 2 months and ended up with only a small part. Just a few lines. Landon was beginning to understand the purpose of the meeting. You've got something brewing, don't you, Josh? You knew each of us had a bad week and I brought you something. A gift to make me feel better? Piped Shannon. No. A gift to help you understand better, explained Josh. He reached into the burlap bag and handed each one a different object. For you, Landon, a lump of clay. Eric, I brought you a piece of wood. And Shannon, a new steel horse's bit. The three stared at the strange objects. Landon spoke first. Thanks, Josh. Just what I wanted. A lump of clay. Eric knew something was up. Come on, Josh. What's this about? Here's a clue, Josh said, laying the book of secrets on the table and removing the key from around his neck. He opened it and handed it to Eric. Read the riddle on that page for us. Here's the riddle. You're glad I came when I'm gone, but you wish I'd leave when I'm there. It hurts when I help. I stretch when I strengthen. Who am I? One more time. You're glad I came when I'm gone, but you wish I'd leave when I'm here. It hurts when I help. I stretch when I strengthen. Who am I? Eric, Shannon, and Landon looked at each other puzzled. Josh grinned. It's all right. I've got an assignment for each of you that should help you discover the answer. On each of these sheets of paper is an address. Go to it and tell the person that I sent you. You'll be instructed what to do. I'll meet you back here in 4 hours. The three looked at each other and smiled. Sounds fun, Shannon said. Well, okay, Eric said slowly, but I sure can't figure out what a piece of wood can teach me about missing a baseball game. Or what this piece of clay can teach me about girls, Landon agreed. Just trust me, Josh smiled. Shannon didn't have far to go to find the address on her slip of paper. It was the horse stables at the Park District on the edge of town. My name is Shannon, she told the woman at the front gate. Oh, you're the girl Josh told me about. He told me to look for you. Did you bring the bit? Shannon held it up so the lady could see. Great! Take the dirt road to the pasture beyond the barn and wait there. As Shannon turned toward the path, the lady added, Learn a lot. The trainer was already at the pasture when Shannon arrived. Hi, I'm Bill, and this is Thunder, he said, pointing to a charcoal gray colt pacing back and forth across the grassy lot. Well, are you ready to get started? He asked. Shannon looked at Bill and then at the colt and back at Bill, who was climbing over the wooden rail fence. Sure, she said. By the way, what are we doing? You'll see, Bill said. Just follow me and don't move too fast when we get close to Thunder. About the same time Shannon stroked Thunder's mane for the first time, Eric was sitting on his bike at a street corner reading the paper Josh had given to him. Go to the intersection of Hoppers and Bluefield, it read. And that's where he was. What do I do now? He thought to himself. But before he had time to answer, someone tapped him on the shoulder. Are you Eric? He turned and looked. It was a policeman. Yes, sir. Did you bring your pocket knife? Yes, sir. Then follow me. Do you know Josh? I know Josh, the man replied, turned and began walking away. When he saw that Eric hadn't moved, he stopped again. Come on, we'll be late. Eric walked his bike several feet behind the officer. The policeman didn't explain where they were going, and Eric didn't ask. After a few minutes, they came upon a large building. The policeman entered, but Eric stopped. The officer turned and spoke again. It's okay. Come on in. Above the door were the words, Bluefield Police Station. Landon's address took him to a house not far from his own. In fact, when he took the shortcut to school, he pedaled right past it. It was a simple house with tall trees and a big yard. A sign hung on the fence. Art classes daily. Even from the street, he could see the large shed in the back. He'd often wondered what was in there. Guess I'll find out today, he said to himself as he laid his bike in the grass and walked up to the door. A woman wearing a full-length apron answered his knock. She was young, about the age of his English teacher, who had just graduated from college. Yes? She asked. He looked down at the paper. Ask for Pamela, it read. So he did. I'm looking for Pamela. That's me. You must be Landon. You're taller than I'd imagined. Landon straightened his shoulders. Come with me, she said. Josh has told me all about you. Let me see what you brought. He handed her the clay and she inspected it. Just right for making a bowl, she observed as the two walked into the shed. Around the room sat half a dozen people back to back on small stools, each busy working. I've saved you the wheel in the corner, Pamela explained, leading Landon over to a workbench beneath the window. But before we go there, let's get the clay ready. What are we doing? Josh told me to teach you something about pottery. And with a twinkle in her eye, she added, girl problems. Let's begin by kneading. Kneeling? No, kneading. It's the process of preparing the clay for the wheel. Here, take this and put it on the bench. She instructed, handing Landon the lump of clay. Landon, still confused, did what she said. Now press it with the strong muscles at the base of your palm. Stretch it out, and then fold it over, and then do it again. Press it hard as you can. The harder you push, the firmer it will be, and I will be back in a few minutes. On the windowsill, Landon saw a variety of bowls and plates and vases. Is that what I'm going to make? We'll try. Soon Landon forgot the mystery of his trip and was caught up in the wonder of pottery. Later that afternoon, back at the restaurant, Landon gave his report first. He was especially fascinated with the wheel, and it was the wheel that dominated his report to Josh, Eric, and Shannon. It's a flat disc that goes around and around, he explained, moving his hands in circles. Pamela told me the most important step is getting the clay centered on the wheel. If it's off-center, the clay will fly off. But if it's centered just right, you can shape it into whatever form you want. It took me a while to get the feel of it, but with time, I could cut my hands around the wet clay and it would respond to my hand. If I squeezed it, the clay got taller. If I loosened my hand, it got fatter. Pam showed me how to make a hole and shape a collar, and, well, look. Landon proudly produced a small bowl. We'll paint it next week, he announced. Can I show them what I did? Sure, Shannon, Josh nodded. Shannon reached into her pocket and pulled out a Polaroid photo of her standing with a bridled thunder. You rode a horse? Eric asked. No, I helped the trainer get this colt used to wearing a bridle. It's never worn a saddle or anything, so we spent the morning introducing him to a halter, which goes over his head like a bridle, but doesn't have the steel bit in the horse's mouth. What did he do at first when you tried to put it on him? Josh asked. Well, he tried to run away. But Bill held on to him. And then Thunder kept ducking his head. But I eventually slipped it on over his ears, and we let him run until he was used to the halter. He really didn't like it. When we replaced the halter with a bridle, it took us 15 minutes to get that thing on. But we just left the bridle on until he didn't seem to be bothered by it much anymore. After that, we took it off and sent him to the barn for his lunch. Why did you have to do all of that? Eric asked. Bill said that without putting Thunder through this, he'd never been tame enough to be ridden, and without that bit in his mouth, he would not obey the rider's directions when to turn or to stop. Tell us where you went, Eric, Josh asked. Well, at first I was scared. A policeman took me to the basement at the police station where 4 guys were sitting on a bench with knives. Were they crooks? Shannon asked. No, they were cops. They were carving pieces of wood. They meet every Saturday before they go to work. It's their hobby. What did you make? Josh spoke up. Well, I'm not finished yet, Eric replied, reaching into a sack. It's going to be a duck, Shannon interrupted. Yeah, Eric beamed. I'm making a duck. First, we drew the pattern on the wood with chalk. Then we chiseled away the big pieces. Then they showed me how to carve the details. They told me that sanding the wood is really important. It makes the wood smooth. Get rid of the rough spots, Josh added, kind of like bridling a horse so that riders can enjoy a comfortable ride. Right, Shannon? Yeah. Kind of like kneading the clay so that it comes out smooth. Right, Landon? Yeah, Josh, Landon answered, again suspecting that something was coming. And he was right. Josh leaned forward, reopened the Book of Secrets, and said, Here is what I want you guys to learn. Then he motioned to Shannon to read. Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds, for you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. And let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. James 1:2-4. Josh leaned forward, picking up Landon's bowl. Here is what I want you guys to learn, he said. This morning I gave you useless objects, a piece of wood, a lump of clay, and a steel bit. But you took them and put them into the skillful hands of a carver, a potter, and a trainer. After some time in the hands of the right person, what was a useless object became useful. Shannon looked confused. I don't get it. If you mean if Landon shapes clay, then girls won't ditch him? No, Josh said, smiling. What I mean is that Landon is the clay. Eric is the wood. You are the young horse. We are all being shaped by the master. Oh, Eric smiled. I get it. We are being shaped in God's hands. That is absolutely true. We are in God's hands, and He is guiding us like you guided the horse, Shannon. He is molding us like you molded this bowl, Landon. God is trimming us just as you shaved the wood to make a duck. Oh, Landon and Eric replied at the same time. I don't get it, Shannon spoke. Not getting the lead in the play is God's way of helping me? Shannon, Josh replied, God can use anything to help you grow. Growth, Landon blurted out. The other 3 turned and stared. What? Eric asked. Growth, Landon smiled. That's the answer to the riddle. Growth hurts when it helps. Growth stretches when it strengthens. Yeah, Eric caught on. And when growth happens, you don't like it. But after it's over, you are glad it came. Good job, Josh smiled. Looks like you learned the secret of growth. Want to read it? Shannon spoke first. I do. Josh handed her the book of secrets and showed her the secret to read. What is painful today has a purpose tomorrow. Josh looked at the three and said, next time things don't work out with the girl, or a game, or anything else, remember, you are in God's hands. He's making you into something special, and he doesn't make mistakes.